Kia ora, assalamu alaikum. My name is Amal. I work at the Social Impact Studio, and I'm super excited to be hosting this presentation from Datacom and later on introducing our guests. But before I introduce these lovely people, I'd just like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded and will be available on Career Hub afterwards. And if you have any questions, put it in the chat as there will be a Q&A after the presentation. So without further ado, I would like to warmly welcome Simon Ferrari, General Manager of Business Platform and Identity, and Candice Skips will be joining us later, and she's at Industry Starters Talent Acquisitions Business Partner. So Datacom delivers solutions across software development, IT operations, data centers, payroll, and platforms, and they're committed to hiring, developing, and promoting diverse talent, which includes grads, which I bet students are super stoked to hear. So really looking forward to hearing more about Datacom, and welcome, Simon.
Excellent. Wow, what an introduction. That's half my presentation already, Amal. Thank you. Look, I'll just kick off by sharing my screen. Bear with me. And hopefully you can see Datacom. Can someone confirm that you can see a big Datacom on the screen?
Looking good, Simon.
Excellent. Okay. Well, hey, look, thank you very much for coming along today. And I realise I'm between you and lunch, but at least there's internet between you and me as well. So rather than being in a room where I say that and I feel really awkward, I'm nice and safely in my dining room at home here in Wellington. I'm delighted to be able to introduce Datacom to you. Graduate recruitment is something I've got a real passion for. While it's not my day job, it means that I get to influence and present a flavour of the company that I've worked for some time now, 20 years in fact, almost, to the next wave of talent that will enter the labour market and join companies like Datacom. With that privilege of presenting Datacom to people like yourselves, I get to help you make your own self-selection in terms of the things that might appeal to you about our organisation, or the things that might not necessarily strike a chord, so that when we do get to the point of the process of appointing graduates into our organisation, you know, people have generally identified an alignment and come forward for the opportunities that we present to the labour market. So graduates, I love this area of my job, even though it's really a hobby for me. And Candice is the person that you'll meet shortly, who her primary focus is graduate recruitment for Datacom Group. Anyway, let me get into things by explaining a little bit about who Datacom is. Datacom's number one, actually, and it's something that we're not very good at saying, talking up our virtues and our value, but we are actually in New Zealand.
Sorry to jump in here, mate. We've just got your display view, presenter view thing around the wrong way again. So,
oh,
yeah,
excellent.
That'll be better.
Thank you, and apologies for that. Let me see. Whereabouts was that, John? Can you remind me?
That display settings on the PowerPoint settings rather than the
yes,
yeah, on the top of the there.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect. Nice work.
Excellent. So something that we're not very good at doing is singing our virtues and promoting our successes, but we've climbed steadily through the last 50 plus years, actually, to be the number one ICT, New Zealand's number one ICT provider. Oh, that might be my dog. Let me come back. Sonny, come back. Ah, the joys of working from home. Datacom has grown up over the last 50 plus years from a small family business, originally starting in Christchurch, actually, to be the large, successful, distributed organisation that we are. We're not only based in New Zealand now, but Australia, Asia, and actually we've got people based in the UK and in the US as well. So significant growth over a sustained long period of time where we've grown to achieve that number one status, certainly in New Zealand, and we've broken into the top 10 in Australia now too, which is an outstanding achievement from where we've come from. We have over 6,500 staff across our regions, and we're constantly growing. I think there was some media that broke maybe 2 months ago where we were hiring 1,000 people into a government agency to deliver services in Australia as a result of the COVID response there. And we're proudly 50% millennials. Now, I haven't prepared that stat, someone else gave that to me. But, you know, our cohort, our employee base is significantly diverse. We have old, wise people. I'd probably be classified as that now. And we have many young people that have come into our organisation and grown up through the organisation. I love the success stories, whether the graduates that I've hired in the past over the last 15 years have come into the company and grown into senior roles within the organisation, or left the organisation and gone on and done great things. Either way, those success stories for me and for Datacom, we've enjoyed the growth of our graduates that have come into the company, and they've gone on and done great things for us or for other organisations. Certainly a key aspect of our business is that growth through new entrants. Thought I'd share a couple of pictures of our offices. That's the office that I work in. I've spent, like I said, the last 18 years in one or various floors in the twin towers, as we call it. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but this is our building here. We've actually built huge plate floors between the two towers to join them up, and two different levels. So up to level 4 now we're joined. Lovely, this photograph was taken from a lovely cafe and bar just overlooking our workplace here in Wellington. We've modernised inside to try and remain relevant and provide an enjoyable work environment for all of our staff. And with that diversity of staff, enjoyable is different things for different people, and we're generally catering really well for that. That's something we're constantly mindful of in Wellington. And likewise in Auckland, we've got a significant organisation base up there with around about 1,500 employees. I should note there's about 1,500 in Wellington as well. Across all the lines of business that we deliver, and I'll explain those shortly. Our Auckland office, is a real flagship office down in the Wynyard Quarter, a great innovation centre within Auckland, vibrant hub, and we built this building maybe 4 years ago, and it's extra cool. It's got some fantastic features, including a meditation room, actually, where you can go and no devices are allowed. You just go in and sit in there. You don't book it. You just come in and spend a little bit of time in a nice quiet room for a while, and you leave all pieced out and relaxed back into your working day. There's also a wall of plants internally that help clean the air and give an outside feel inside. It's just a fantastic building. Really proud of it. As I said, we've got offices across the globe. Major centres within New Zealand are Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, Tauranga, Hamilton as well. And we've got offices in Dunedin, reaching right out into the districts in Napier, and I believe we may have an office in Queenstown, or at least a person in Queenstown. We're obviously wide across Australia as well, in Canberra and Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, Sydney. My interest in terms of my connection with graduate recruitment, and in particular at Otago, stems from my days as a student. Actually, I grew up in Dunedin. I love Dunedin. I love Otago University and the talent that Otago University produces. I'm well connected with the Careers Development Centre down there, and I really love the work they do and how they connect and innovate, actually, in the graduate placement market. And I love the fact that they've won an award for the work they've done late last year, I believe it was. So if you're not aware of the Careers Development Centre in Dunedin, you absolutely must get involved and connected with the value that they provide to you as students looking for your first placement in the labour market. I've been recruiting at Otago graduates since before the link even existed, when the library was the old library, exactly where it is now, but it certainly didn't go 4 stories high. It was 2 stories from memory. So I've sat in your student union, or stood in your student union, talking to students about placements in Datacom maybe 10, 15 years ago, before the link was there. And so got a deep interest in finding more talent from Otago University and bringing them into Datacom. I've got a selfish interest in bringing them into Wellington, but I also represent all of Datacom when I'm talking to Otago graduates. And so don't be afraid if it's actually Christchurch, Auckland, Tauranga, or somewhere else that you're interested in. I'm certainly here to represent all of Datacom and the opportunities that presents to you as graduates. So what do we do? That might be a very interesting thing for me to explain next. We really, we do almost everything in ICT and more. As was mentioned in the introduction, we also do payrolls, which you might not think is an IT function, but it's absolutely core to our business and has been for many years. But Kerry Top here is one of our main innovators and quite high profile. You may have seen him in LinkedIn. If you've got a LinkedIn profile, I'd encourage you to look up Kerry Top, T-O-P-P. Interesting character, very interesting posts. If you followed him on LinkedIn, he would absolutely accept the request. And you'll learn a lot of interesting things from Kerry. But he says that we're strategists, thinkers, innovators, and technologists who are dedicated to creating IT solutions that make a difference, achieving meaningful change, and take account real-life constraints. And that's a mouthful, but it really sums up what we do and the sorts of people that like working in Datacom as an organisation. We're really committed to that as a kind of theme to everything that we do, effectively helping connect people and technology to deliver solutions for businesses and our wider community. That's actually almost word for word our purpose. In a more detailed sense, in the more bullet pointy kind of sense, what we do, and this will be slightly skewed towards the area of work that I work in, but I come from our software division. We do a lot of diverse work in the software space. It doesn't mean that you need to be a software developer in order to be relevant to Datacom or of value to Datacom. And I'd certainly encourage you, if you're not a software developer, to remain interested in this presentation and remain interested in Datacom as an employer. I'll explain that a wee bit later. Certainly from a software point of view, we do a lot of work in either developing bespoke solutions and integrating product-based solutions and multi-product solutions. And certainly cloud has become a much more prevalent theme in our business in the last 5 to 10 years. We've got our own government cloud platform. It's called Datacom Cloud Services for Government. We built that maybe 10 years ago now. I think it might be 9 years ago. And that was a major investment in cloud compute based in data centers across New Zealand. We built 2 new data centers just to be able to provide that service to government. And it was effectively a private cloud. We're now moving into hybrid cloud and public cloud solutions using AWS, Google, and naturally Azure. You won't be surprised with that at all. Do a lot of work in integration, as I mentioned, APIs, Internet of Things is becoming a common topic for us in conversations with customers, as is business process automation, business process management, digital mobility, innovation frameworks, BI and analytics, machine learning and artificial intelligence is becoming more prevalent in the work that we do as well. So you can see we do a wide gambit of pretty much every piece of the software spectrum that you could possibly imagine. DevOps is another thing that's become, and Agile is obviously now becoming widespread and well adopted by our government customers here in Wellington. And that's certainly an area of great interest and demand actually. We also have other areas of work that we do in networks and data, as I've mentioned. Security is obviously a very key thing for us and something that we're really keenly interested in finding graduates who have a passion and an interest in the security space, as well as unified comms and networking in general. And IT management, which is effectively where customers...
Sorry, Simon. Sorry to
Sure.
interrupt. Just wanted to let you know that there's a black box covering a quarter of the screen, so we can't see some of the words. I'm just wondering if perhaps John could assist you. So I'm not too sure how to remedy that. Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks really
Excellent.
good now.
Excellent. I'm sorry about that. I hope you haven't missed too much up to now. Thanks for letting me know. And feel free to interrupt again if there's any other issues like that come up. IT management, where customers actually outsource their entire operations or a complete set of their operations to us and say, please take care of this. Please run our service desk as if you were us. So when Datacom employees that are running our service desk for them answer the phone, they may answer it by saying, hello, MB service desk, or hello, Immigration New Zealand service desk, for example. So it's where they completely give us the responsibility of running their IT services. We call that IT management. Fascinating area of our business, really important to our customers, where they're looking at remaining focused on their core business, and where IT isn't their core business, maybe allowing people to gain passports or visas to enter New Zealand, or perhaps managing the courts processes, their core business. They may give us their IT services where that is our core business, and we can look after that at a better price point, at a higher level of service, and better outcomes for their end users. Technologies, we use a vast variety of technologies. Only to give you a taste of some of them, some of the technologies that we do use, and some of these you may recognise. And if you don't recognise any of these, don't worry. We're not singularly filled with technologists that use these technologies all day. We have a diverse group of people with different talents that operate in our organisation. I just wanted to give you a bit of a taste for the sorts of engagements, the sorts of partners that we have. Partners are a really important part of our business, where we connect with people who are specialists in different areas, like Microsoft with Azure, like Pega Systems for their Pega platform, Drupal for the content management systems that they provide, MuleSoft for their integration platforms, SQL suppliers like MySQL from Oracle now, Android, C#, etc. All key partners of ours that we use and technologies that we use. So you name a product provider or a vendor in the ICT business, we're almost certainly a partner of them. Moving on from what we do, what's life like at Datacom is probably another question that you'd be very interested to know. I should keep an eye on my time to make sure I don't overrun. Life at Datacom is very challenging to summarise because it's so diverse and different. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a taste for the different sorts of things that we do. We've got a wide range of people, technologies and opportunities within the organisation, which makes life at Datacom really interesting. You know, I woke up after 7 years at Datacom. It was probably the 7-year itch. And I thought to myself, why am I still here? This was quite a while ago, by the way. How have I stayed here so long, and why aren't I looking at moving and changing? And it was because for those 7 years, I'd had such rich opportunities and diverse engagements. I had no need to change my organisation to find my next challenge, to find the next plateau, the next step up, and in order to stretch myself and challenge myself. I certainly worked with a lot of people in those first 7 years, and that's remained true until today, where over time I've continued changing my roles, changing my engagements, exploring new businesses and new customers, working with new talent. It's been a fantastic opportunity, and that's the sort of proposition that we represent to graduates entering the market. Certainly lots of fun. It took me a long time to accept that I could say out loud that fun was a key principle in my own personal values in a professional context. But now I say it with pride. It helped that Richard Branson said it maybe 10 years ago, and that gave me the green card to say it as well. You're allowed to have fun at work, and I think it's really important that you balance the challenge and the hard times with relief and release. And we do that through our social connections. You're not obligated or forced to have those social interactions, but they exist in many different ways, through social events that are organised on a weekly basis, through sporting events, social sporting events, and participation in inter-company sporting events that occur certainly in Wellington and Auckland. And specific team events where people get to connect. And one of the key things that we do with our graduate recruitment program is ensure that the graduates that we bring in, which aren't all in one big wave, but generally throughout the year, certainly at key stages throughout the year, that the graduates are aware of the other graduates that have been brought into the organisation and remain connected and are enabled to form a cohort where their support is virtual and informal, as opposed to structured and required. But it allows graduates to share their experiences in the different pockets of Datacom that they may enter into, so they can learn from each other and feel confident and comfortable within the organisation as they ease their way into their first place of employment. One of the best ways to do that is our annual event called Datacom. It's a combination, obviously, of Datacom and competition, healthy competition in this case. It's our annual hackathon. I've been to 2 of these after about 7 years of seeing the videos and seeing how awesome it looked. And when I went to my first one 2 years ago, I was gobsmacked at how engaging, how exciting, how challenging, how rewarding it was. I gave up a weekend for it, like everybody does. Last year, there were about 450 participants. They came from not only inside Datacom offices within Australasia, but also Asia as well. So I was in a team with 3 people from our Malaysian office, got to meet them for the first time, got to spend 48 hours with them with a wee bit of sleep over Friday night, Saturday and Sunday afternoon, basically hacking together a solution to a problem that we chose to wrap ourselves around. We weren't forced to, we self-selected on Friday night. You have to watch the video. I'd highly recommend you go to YouTube after this, type in Datacom 2019, look at the 4 or 5 minute video that summarizes this event. It's such a good event. If nothing else, this is an extremely good reason to aspire to work for Datacom if that sort of thing looks like your sort of gig. Great way to meet people, to learn things, learn new tools, learn new practices and methods. We also had undergraduates join us from different organisations last year, which was an interesting first experiment. And, again, that talks to our interest in changing things up and ensuring it's not all the old grey people like me, partially grey, who get to define what the workplace is like and what the solutions look like and how we move ahead. It's actually the future, and that actually comes from people like yourselves and undergraduates who bring innovative new ideas, who think differently and can create awesome solutions. Moving on to our graduate program, we have depending on our senses, we have slightly different approaches to our graduate program, but really the key thing is that we're constantly looking for top talent who align to our values and whose values align to ours, so that they can enter our organisation and achieve some awesome things, start creating their career, start building their credentials, start building their connections and networks, start adding value for our customers, so that Datacom can succeed and at the same time they can succeed. I hired one guy called Tim as a graduate back in 2004. Tim joined me in Wellington as a developer, Java developer actually, on a project. He very quickly moved into a technical lead role. He moved into an architect role. He became a business manager, running a team of people looking after an identity group. He became a GM, a general manager of that group. And then he's moved now into a government agency leading the future of identity for a major government agency that looks after all of government here in Wellington. For me, there's no better success story than that. A graduate joined us in 2004. 16 years later, he's innovating and leading the way, the future of identity for all of government in New Zealand. This is the sort of stories that our goal with our graduate programs aims to create. One of the things that we do, which is really important, is that we work with graduate strengths and skills and interests to match them to the best teams and roles. That's really important to me and really important to the organisation. We don't just go out into the graduate market looking for 10 graduates or 50 graduates a year across our group and just treat them as numbers and bodies and brains that get applied to anywhere in our business. We carefully look at the style, the skills and the interests that you've got, and we match them carefully to teams and leaders of those teams where we believe that you will best fit. And that doesn't mean that you're there forever, of course, but it means that that's your home when you first enter the organisation. And that's done really carefully, and it's probably the most important part of our matching process to make sure that your initial experience within Datacom is aligned well to where you are now and what you immediately want to achieve. That's good for us and it's good for the graduates we hire. As I said, it's a great place to kickstart your career with opportunities to work with customers and real projects straight away. So, you don't go into a incubator where you or a hothouse where you are protected from the customer or protected from real outcomes. You actually get the experience of delivering to actual customers who have real problems and where we've got contracts to deliver outcomes for them. You're obviously nurtured and cared for and not thrown in the deep end. So you're paired up with people who will help you develop the skills and the confidence to be able to bring that value for those customers. But it's tangible, real material work that you'll be doing in a safe, careful environment. Let me just get rid of that wee box. Sorry. You'll be supported by a mentor, as I hinted at just before. So not only will you be nurtured within the team that you join, but you'll also be assigned a mentor who will focus on your development and your skills growth. So you've got that informal connection, not only with your cohort of graduates across the group that join at approximately the same time that you might, but you also have a dedicated or a specific person who's identified as your mentor, who's probably come through a similar experience to you and hopefully within the last 3 to 5 years, so they know what it feels like and they know how to help bring you into the organisation and settle you in and reassure you that those feelings of anxiety that come when you enter a new company in a professional context, that those feelings are very normal and that they can help you understand how to handle those feelings of anxiety or excitement or concern and coach you on how best to bring the best of you to your job and deliver the best in the team that you're in. And certainly being part of events within the wider Datacom intake's a vital part, as I mentioned, to be integrated and connected with your cohort. I think that's Emily. She was a graduate, I think. Oh, there's Daniel there. He was an Otago graduate. I don't know if you can see where my mouse is, the guy with the beard underneath Emily who's standing up. Daniel joined us probably about 7 years ago. He's left now and he's become an ambulance driver, but he's found his passion, which is important and awesome, and we're really supportive of that. He was a Microsoft CRM developer, a Java developer originally, but he moved into Microsoft. A fantastic Otago graduate. We've had many of those in the past. I often joke our best graduates come from Otago. The non-Otago graduates never like that joke, but I'm one of those, you could argue, and hence I make that joke. The opportunities that we have are extremely diverse, and I won't read these all out. You can read them for yourself, but obviously we're highly interested in a diverse range of skills, from analysis, whether it be for business, service desk, or test analyst type roles, all the way through to the hardcore technical skills as well. Full stack development, whether it be in the Microsoft space or Java. Obviously, there's new technologies that we're using more frequently now. JavaScript, not so new, but we're certainly seeing a great increase in React and JavaScript skills. Full stack skills are obviously quite a high value key area we're looking at, but also front end UI UX is really important. We get that right and ensure that end customers are happy with our solutions that we're building. Application modernization, taking old solutions and re-platforming them often into cloud public cloud solutions, the cloud native development. DevOps skills and Agile, I mentioned that earlier, a key area that we're looking for skills in or an interest in getting involved in. Security, networking, integration, obviously key areas as well that we're always looking for. But again, I want to emphasize, the diversity of thought is really important, and diversity of thought comes from diversity with regards to people's experiences and life experiences. And so, we would be remiss if we were only looking for computer science graduates with A+ degrees to join the organization. We're a technologist firm. We deliver technology solutions, but we do that with many creative, diverse thinkers, and many of those have never written a line of code in their life. And I just want to emphasize the importance of that we create our best solutions and we solve our biggest problems when we have creative, diverse, innovative thinkers wrapped around those new solutions we're creating or the problems we're trying to solve. We don't do it with a formulaic cookie cutter shaped person. There we go. I've just made that comment there that we're looking for experience across really, ultimately, I often joke that we're looking for anyone with a degree in anthropology through to zoology and everywhere in between. Obviously, it helps if you've got information science background or maybe a major in that. Computer science is obviously really important. But ultimately, the A to Z of degrees is what is my wish list of graduates to consider suitable for employment by Datacom. If you're interested, we're looking for fresh, innovative thinkers and collaborators, people that will challenge people like me who have been in the industry for almost too long, but also who will bring that fresh thinking, new way of looking at things, not afraid to put themselves out there, whether it be on stage at Datacom in a dance competition. Yes, that happens at Datacom. That's how they judge a winner when there's two people close together on any of the challenges we have throughout the weekend. Or not afraid to put themselves out there in a meeting and put their hand up and say, I don't understand why we're doing it this way. Why don't we do it that way instead? We value your creative passion, openness, dedication, authenticity, and energy. That's exactly what graduates bring to the workplace. It's exactly what I value and what Datacom seniors value in terms of the new entrance into our organization. And so, it's not your technical expertise singularly that we value. In some cases, you may not bring that. It's the creativity, passion, openness, your drive, your authentic nature and your passion. Greg Davidson, our current Datacom CEO, he's been with the organisation for as long as I have. In fact, I worked closely with him in the early days as we delivered the case management system for justice in 2001, which we still look after today. He said that he can teach code. What he can't teach is attitude. And so it's attitude that we really look for in our graduates when we're going through a process of screening. And that's not a specific single attitude, but it's the willingness, it's the eagerness, it's the passion, it's the drive, I call it the fire in the belly. Almost at the end now, and I'd love to have any questions that you've got. Really, from my perspective, where we're at with the graduate program at this point in time is that we're obviously with COVID, we're assessing our ability and appetite and the volume of graduates that we can bring on as we go through the rest of this year and into next year. We're absolutely interested in graduates, and we will be hiring graduates between now and February next year. So don't be afraid of us turning up here and then disappearing and not recruiting graduates. Graduates are our life source. Graduates are how we renew and remain current and future relevant. So we will absolutely be hiring graduates from Otago University this year, making offers for entrant into Datacom the latter half of this year and early next year. If anything that I've said today has been of any specific interest and you're keen to register your interest in a graduate role at Datacom, that will be the very first initial step that we're opening up at the moment. Here's the link. I'll maybe paste that into the comments later so you can take a copy of that easily rather than having to write that down now. That's where we simply capture your interest in Datacom as a potential employer, and where Candice will do the initial screening and work through the process of bringing you or updating you on our thinking over the next couple of months. Probably within 2 months you'd hear back from us, 2 to 3 months you'd hear back from us in terms of what our next steps are going to be. And as I said, Candice Skips is our awesome graduate manager, handles all the graduate recruitment across Datacom Group. I hope she's... Excellent, she's here. Sorry, I can't see you. I'll see you shortly. Candice, and she's your primary point of contact, but obviously that registration link's the place to go to register your interest in Datacom. And that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing now so that I can see you all again. Excellent. Welcome, Candice. Amal, I'd just like to say a really big thanks for your time. It's good to see that we've got a few more come in than we had when I kicked off. Hopefully that's been of interest and value to you. I'd really love, Candice, I'd love to spend the next 20 minutes or up to 20 minutes answering any questions you've got. Please don't hesitate. There's no stupid question. We're here for you to help clarify anything that we've said. Like I say, I'll put that comment into the chat so you know where to register.
I've put it in there already.
You're awesome.
It's all there.
Onto it. Welcome, Candice. You missed the introductions at the beginning, but yeah, just want to welcome you to the session. And yeah, inviting you if you want to say a couple of words or.
I think Simon did a really good summary. I look after the recruitment of graduates and I guess the strategy around our grad program, or even all of our entry-level positions across Australia and New Zealand. So, so super passionate about helping students find what career path they want to take. It can be really overwhelming. Sometimes even watching presentations like this and seeing how many different things companies like Datacom do. We have a huge range of services, and it can be quite challenging to figure out where you kind of fit in there. But yes, Simon and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have, or if you don't have questions, I can just make some questions up on the spot for Simon.
Do you have any questions? Yeah, please go for it. I mean, you've got direct access to Simon and Candice right now, so there's a perfect chance to ask questions if anyone's feeling brave. Maybe while... Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Hi.
Yeah, so thank you, Simon and Candice, for your presentations. I'm Magdalene. I'm in my penultimate year of a computer science and entrepreneurship degree. And I was just wondering if you guys have any internship opportunities.
At the moment, we haven't solidified any internship opportunities for the year. It is definitely something that we've done in the past and we would like to do again, but it's not certain at this point what we'll be doing in terms of internships for 2020 or if they will 100% go ahead. Obviously, the COVID situation has changed our flow for the year, but once there is any kind of internship opportunities in place, you can find that information on our website. We'll refresh any information on there as often as we can.
Yeah, I'd probably add to that, Magdalene, if you're, I believe there's an opportunity in the link for registering your interest to make a free text comment, certainly a cover letter anyway, that you're required to upload. So if there's a reason that you're particularly interested in internships, maybe use a sentence or a paragraph just to explain that. And if it's because you'd like to continue study or because you need to fulfill a certain number of hours for your course or whatever, just make that known there. Doesn't mean that we will automatically be able to support that, but at least we've got the chance to look at that and consider it in the kind of rich tapestry of options and opportunities, how we might accommodate that if we were to progress your interests.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have a question, but just more of a comment. I just really like how Datacom cares for the well-being of their staff and values things like fun. That's awesome. I think work-life balance is really, really important, and it naturally affects your life quality. So I just think it's like awesome, the mahi that you guys do, and you incorporate that into your values. Actually, I do have a question. Probably for a lot of our students, not just the students here in this presentation, but for a lot of finalists, they're kind of entering a world where we don't know what the next couple of years is going to look like, and people are talking about that big, ugly R word, recession. What advice would you have for our students as they kind of enter this next phase in their life?
Yeah, maybe Candice, you happy if I take that first cut at that? Yeah. So it's a really good question, and it's funny because about 2 months ago I was sitting here actually working away and thinking about the future of work in a COVID context, and I thought about my buddies at the Career Development Centre down there at Otago and in Vic here, which is where we're generally well connected in the Wellington office at least. And then I thought about you, and I thought you being the graduates, or next year graduates. My son's at university and he'll be coming out in a couple of years' time. But it made me think, what would that feel like to me? And I ended up doing a wee 3-minute spiel for the CDC at Otago, and it's on the CDC site if you're interested in it, where I think I have a go at answering that question, which is what without overselling or over reassuring, what realistic advice would I have for graduates in their final year? So have a look at that. It's on the Facebook page and probably LinkedIn of the Careers Development Centre for Otago Uni. And there's other 3-minute segments from other people as well. In a nutshell, my advice is probably under any kind of calamity or crisis that I'd probably give to anybody, which is remain calm. The sun is still coming up, and in particular, one of the great analogies I thought of is that the sun's still coming up daily and the seasons are still there. And graduate recruitment is very cyclical, like the sunrise and like the seasons. For companies like Datacom, and as I said earlier, we're still in the graduate recruitment market. We haven't stopped. We're taking a good look at what we need and what we can accommodate, but we will be recruiting graduates between now and February next year. Absolutely, there'll be graduate letters of offer going out. And the question for you is, how do you, so once you've remained calm and remained focused on the goal, which is a role, once you come out of university, what can you do to help you be even more appealing and attractive to employers out there? And that's what you really need to focus on. So you could think about 2 years of recession or 10 years of recession and be quite freaked out by that. Or you could think about how you're going to be successful in the future that will exist, because you can't control the future that will exist. You can control how you appear to people like Candice and myself in the graduate recruitment market. And so, that's about polishing up your, not simply and obviously your resume, your cover letter, tailoring every single cover letter to ensure that it's meaningful for the role you're applying and the organisation you're applying. Maybe being really clear on your own values and how they align with the organisation you're appealing to or applying at. It's also about building out your networks so that you've got a bit more of a safety net. Don't rely on the job application that you've just submitted being the one that will be your job. So build a bit of a safety net through a network, and that will be through people you've met in the past that you haven't connected with through LinkedIn, for example. I'm assuming you've got LinkedIn profiles. If you haven't, get one fast and build it out. But also reach out to people that you haven't, that you don't, that you may not have met or don't know. So and don't be afraid of doing that. That's almost like a cold call. Well, you're going to have some awkward, difficult situations in the future as you go through the finding your first role, almost certainly. Why don't you use that to tune those skills? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I've answered your question very well, Amal, but or Candice, have you got anything to add?
I think you covered it all exactly that way. Yeah, as you said, you can't control or worry too much about what's to come. But what you can control is, I guess, what you do in the present moment to upskill yourself, to reach out. There's so many things that have come out of this period online, whether it's workshops or just jumping on Zoom calls with your peers and seeing a problem and thinking, well, what can we do about this? And you really have the opportunity to explore and to come up with solutions and to be ahead of the curve when you see an issue and work together and come up with something cool. You don't need to necessarily be employed to do that, or you can do it alongside your studies and just get involved in as much as you can while you're studying, in terms of connecting with others who are passionate, upskilling, online courses, meetups, anything like that. I think, and having your LinkedIn profile, so you've got a digital presence there, so you can connect with people. And I think, that's a really great thing that you can do in the immediate that will help you in the long term.
Yay, thank you so much for answering that. Those are some really, really wise words. And if you guys heard that and you're like, oh, I need to step up my LinkedIn game, we've got workshops at the Career Development Centre, and they're really, really helpful. I did one myself because my LinkedIn game is very weak. But no, those workshops are fantastic, and thank you so much for your wise words. Do we have any more questions from you guys? Yes, Bill.
Hi. I'm Bill. I graduated with distinction in computer science, and my question is about coding test. If it exists, what kind of question will be? Thank you.
Oh, that's a great question. I was hoping Candice might.
I can. We're still mapping out our selection process. It is highly likely that there will be an online test. But in terms of what that looks like, I can't confirm yet, but it will be kind of, tailored to a grad level, entry skills, baseline problem solving skills. I would imagine you might have something else to add there, Simon.
Yeah, historically we haven't done any, for graduates, we haven't done intensive psychometric or technical tests. So as Candice said, we're moving towards reevaluating that and seeing what would be helpful in that regard. So historically we've really, from my perspective, what's been, and actually as Greg Davison, our chief executive, said, we can teach coding, but we can't teach attitude. And so I think that talks to the fact that what we've done in the past, certainly at Datacom, where I've tuned our interview process to, I think it was 9 key questions. None of them talked about whether you knew what singleton classes, or whether you knew what inheritance meant, you know, in an object-oriented programming sense. I wasn't really interested in that. In fact, some people were even shocked that I wasn't interested in your transcript. We've been interested in understanding you as a person, understanding the things you value, what you place value, you know, intrinsically, what motivates you. And one of the things I really honed in on, and probably my key question, it's probably a bit cliche now, but I'm hoping that lots of people have ripped it off. But one of my key questions that I asked was my A to B question, and we've developed it over a couple of years to the point where, and what it was focusing on, I didn't realize at the time, but I read a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and I realized it was looking for divergent thinking. And if you're aware of that concept, you'll know what I mean. But the question itself, Malcolm Gladwell in the book talks about divergent thinking as being of high value, and his question that he asks is, how many uses for a brick are there? So, you know, a clay brick, how many uses for a brick? And the person lists off, you know, well, a wall, a house, yeah, that's about it. The people that come up with, you know, it's great for a smash and grab at an ATM machine, or it's great for propping up your bed when you've got sinus issues and you need to drain your, you know, etc. Or it's really good for putting underneath your monitor to raise your monitor up to a certain height so you're not straining your neck. You know, it's the people that can think about that that's the divergent thinkers, not convergent thinkers of high value. And back to that creativity and innovation, you know, even if you're a developer, you need to be creative and innovative and exhibit divergent thinking, whether it's solving a problem, implementing a piece of code well or efficiently. My question was the A to B question, which was, and I put it to you, and I'll put it to you like I put it to graduates. Imagine you're in a room with me. The question is, okay, you're in building A, you've got to get to building B. It's raining outside. I'd like you to describe all the factors that will influence how wet you get. That's all you get. Okay, and you can imagine you're already thinking about some of those factors, right? This is teasing out for me how creative you are, and I have a bit of fun with it actually. So I go back to some of my core values. So, you know, when the person says, well, the distance between the buildings, I go, yep. The speed you travel, I'm like, why, how? So I interrupt and challenge, which happens at work all the time. People interrupt and challenge. Why? Why is that? Okay, good excuse. I almost don't care what their answer is to the why, so long as they don't get rattled, they look calm, they don't look challenged or threatened, they don't get passive aggressive. You know, I'm testing a whole lot of things in that challenge. You know, someone will come up with, they'll go, well, what about if a UFO carries me from A to B? I'm like, absolutely, brilliant, thanks. You know, there is no constraints. I didn't say it had to be a factor that was true. You know, the underground, the umbrella, the walking in a group, the surface splash, and you know, all of a sudden you start, you know, are the traffic lights between us? All these factors that people come up with, you start seeing very quickly the people who can think on their feet, dynamically, creatively, they like a bit of fun. You know, when they get to about 10 and they list off 10, I write them down, and that's part of the pressure. So I write them down in front of them, and I'm applying a wee bit of subtle pressure. But then when they go there and they kind of cross their arms, and I say, well, hang on, that's not a bad start. Give us another 5. You know, that's what sometimes happens at work, right? People go, I want more. And I do it in a nice way, but I'm challenging them and I'm learning a lot from them in terms of this interaction. It's great. So back to your question. I've overshot the runway on that, but we're currently looking at what we might do in that regard, because obviously if it's a development role we're hiring for, we want to make sure that they understand how to develop. If it's a business analyst role, we want to understand how they think about business conveyed problems and turn them into simple, clear bullet points of definition requirements. So we're looking at what we do in that space at the moment.
That was a really good question, Bill. Thank you. And thank you for answering that, Simon and Candice. We probably have time for one more very quick question. One quick question. Going once, going twice. All right, I might wrap up this session then. Thank you so much, Simon and Candice. It's been really, really interesting. The presentation was fantastic. I think you've given lots of food for a thought and reassurance for our students, especially as they're entering into exam season. They're in that grind, but thank you so much for that, honestly. You've done so much for our students, and I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for giving up your time as well. And thank you for our students for tuning in. I think you've done a lot of good, and your future self will be patting you on the back for looking out for your future. Yeah, so thank you so much for everyone. And yeah, it's been a pleasure hosting this session.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Great to see you guys. And those that are watching this afterwards, thank you for your time. And go well with your studies and your future.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
the rest of your day. See you.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.